Sony announced their Xbox Game Pass competitor today, but does it really compete? We knew it was coming, and today is the day that Sony has unveiled their Xbox Game Pass competitor called Spartacus, or at least that's what it was codenamed. So Sony has announced today a bunch of new subscription updates for PlayStation fans, and there's some good news, there's some interesting news, and there's some things that Microsoft and Sony agree on that make Stadia honestly just kind of stand out. So let's just dive into the subscription news, because there is quite a bit of it coming out of the Sony camp today. So Sony is officially announcing new PlayStation Plus subscriptions. That is subscriptions plural. Their first entry-level option effectively combines PlayStation Plus and PlayStation Now, so keep that in mind. So the PlayStation Plus Essentials, which is their new entry-level tier, is $9.99 a month, or about 1/10 of a mini fridge unit, or $10 dues, however you want to do it. It's about $60 per year if you pay for it up front, and it's effectively the same as the PlayStation Plus benefits of today. There's a lot of confusion because there's a lot of tiers, but this is their new entry level. Just keep in mind, $60 per year if you pay up front, 2 downloadable games per month. It's effectively what we have seen out of Camp Sony this year. Now, there is a new tier called PlayStation Plus Extra, and this is where things start to get a little bit interesting. So there's a new this new tier includes all of the previous benefits, but adds up to 400 PS4 or PS5 games, and is $14.99 per month, or $99 per year, which is effectively 1 mini fridge unit per year, or $100 dues per year. And that is effectively, I think, going to be the most lucrative option for, I think, PlayStation fans, because you're going to get a giant back catalog of current and modern games, and it's $100 per year. Now, there is also a new PlayStation Plus Premium. So you've got Essentials, you've got a Plus Extra, and you've got Plus Premium. And so this new high-end tier is $17.99 per month, or $120 per year. And what this includes is the 400 PS4 or PS5 games. But it also includes PS3 titles that can be streamed, and some older PlayStation, PS2, and even PSP games that will be available. There's also going to be some limited time game trials. And so this new effectively $18 per month option gives you the largest back catalog of Sony's games. And that is going to be how Sony hopefully entices you to play all those backwards compatible games, either streamed or locally. Now, there's some big things we need to talk about here, because first of all, the big challenger here is Xbox Game Pass. That is where a lot of competition, or a lot of headlines, are going to be comparing, and it makes the most sense. You have Microsoft's premium service versus Sony's premium service. The primary difference, as of right now, is that Xbox is committing that all of their first-party titles will be available on Xbox Game Pass Ultimate on day one. Sony is not saying that that's going to be happening. Jim Ryan actually came out and was kind of contradicting and saying that may not be the best thing for the industry. Now, there's some reasons why they are doing this. One, Microsoft has a very diverse revenue stream. Obviously, we all believe that they are leveraging Xbox Game Pass Ultimate and Game Pass to get people over to that brand, and they're doing so potentially at a loss, although Phil Spencer kind of muddies the water that it is sustainable, but we'll let those dirty details be out there. Sony, on the other hand, is not in the same position. They don't have a massive Office 365 bundle that's propping up their entire business, or Azure or anything else like that. And so it might be harder for them to offer things with slimmer margins. That being said, they also know the value of launching a game at $60 or $70 more than likely in the Sony camp, and how much money that brings in. And so putting those titles into these services doesn't make sense for Sony. So that is the primary difference here, is that Xbox Game Pass, you pay for it, you're getting all Xbox, all you want, everything you need on day one. Now, third-party titles is a different story, but on Camp Sony, they're not going to be putting those titles in there, which is a big differentiator here. Also, I find it really interesting here that PS3 titles can only be streamed. If you remember how much fanfare there was around the Cell processor back in the day. Now, I know there are emulators and that Power PC stuff can be done, but it very clearly looks like Sony's like, we're not even going to try to touch that. Streaming only. But what I like about what Sony is doing here is that streaming is a feature. It's not the product. It is not the product. That is the same way Microsoft looks at it through Xbox Game Pass Ultimate. It is a feature. It is not the product. One of the other really big differences here that separates what Xbox is doing, at least as of right now, it doesn't look like Sony's streaming services can be done on other platforms. Right now, you can play Xbox Game Pass Ultimate. You can play it on this PC. You can play it on your phone. You can stream it on your console. You can stream it almost nearly anywhere at this time. PlayStation stuff, appears to only be locked to its own devices, which again is not exactly a great value differentiator because you're paying more money but getting less functionality. And so it's one of the big differentiators here between Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, in this case, and what Sony is offering. Now, I don't necessarily think that this is a bad deal or a bad offering. This is just Sony's approach about how they think they should be going forward here. I also think it's worth taking a look at how Sony is approaching this, because to me, this sounds more like Sony is trying to get people who are already subscribing to their online gameplay services to upgrade to more expensive monthly tiers, rather than trying to grab a whole bunch of new market like Microsoft is trying to do. Really, they just have multiple tiers and they want you to upgrade, and that's why that $14.99 per month or $100 per year, where you get 400 to 500 PS4/PS5 games, looks like a really good value, because you can just go in there and it's like your quote unquote, for the old folks listening, the Blockbuster, if you will. Instead of going and renting it, you can just go play games, pull it off the shelf, download it, play it, install it, remove it, do that sort of thing. And so I think that might be actually Sony's real motive here, rather than trying to take on a Game Pass. The other really, really interesting thing about this is that this service is not going to launch for another 3 months, roughly. And it's going to launch in Asia first, which is fine. That is their home market for the most part. But why announce it now? I don't understand why they're announcing it so early, and there's really actually no North America launch date. It just is listed later in the year, so probably a holiday shopping season thing, maybe? I'm not quite sure. But either way, these are digital services. We live in a very much like you announce it, it's available now type world, and the fact that Sony's announcing this and we don't get our hands on it for at least roughly 3 months, depending on where you are in the world, feels a little off. I don't know if they're doing this because the service was effectively so hyped up and it's been leaked and people have been talking about it and been waiting for it, and they felt like they had to get it out so they could start having conversations about it. But either way, it's not available yet, and it won't be available for some time. The other thing too here is, as noted, the streaming is a product or a feature, unlike Stadia, which we've all know the story behind Stadia at this point, where Google is pivoting, where it does not appear that streaming is actually a worthwhile product yet. It is only a feature set. And so that is honestly something that Xbox and Sony at least agree on. So on face value here, we still got to wait and see how this evolves, but I really think the lack of day one content coming to these services these subscriptions from Sony is going to be hurting them, at least from a marketing perspective, because it's very clear that Xbox Game Pass is a better value. And now I think Sony will make some arguments and say, like, look, we've got a huge back catalog, we've got tons of award-winning IP back in that back catalog, and that's just the way we are approaching it. We don't believe that the industry should be going to the streaming or the subscription route for new content per se, and that's just the way they're going to stick to it from a marketing perspective. But either way, in the headlines, Xbox Game Pass Ultimate at least is going to be compared to Sony's new Plus Premium about which value is better, and Xbox comes out honestly miles ahead. And especially the other thing too is Microsoft's back catalog is paying off huge here, because the Xbox back catalog can all be played locally. It's not streamed. You can download it to your console and it plays just well. Now, I can make a very good argument that streaming content works just fine. We see it through Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, but we all know it's still not just quite the same as locally. And so the fact that some Sony titles cannot be played locally and they have to be streamed just means that Microsoft's investments in their back catalog are once again paying off in ways that they probably didn't intend. They probably didn't look and say, look, Sony's never going to replicate the cell processor on a PS5 and we'll have a better narrative in the marketing aspect. That probably honestly never came up. But either way, it really just kind of once again shows the true value prop of Xbox Game Pass Ultimate. And honestly, this actually probably justifies Microsoft raising the price once they get Activision in-house. Now, the Activision deal is going to take some time. There's already some antitrust investigations going on, but that's a story for another video whatever. Either way, Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, I think, continues to be an exceptional value. I think that overall, though, this is good for Sony because it shows them moving in the right direction. It gives them at least an answer to what Microsoft is doing. I'll be curious from PlayStation fans if this is what you actually wanted from Camp Sony. I mean, obviously Sony is going here more the more capitalist approach, if you will, that you can get all this content, but you can't get day one content. You still got to buy that outright. That might be the tipping spot. The true answer will finally come out when Sony starts dropping earnings, where we see these new subscriptions. Are people signing up and moving up through the tiers? Because again, I think that is where Sony is trying to head here. Not trying to reinvent the market like Microsoft did with Game Pass. They are simply trying to say, look, we have I believe it's around 50 million subscribers. I could be off on that 50 million number. at $10 a month. If we can move them up into a higher tier, we will benefit significantly from that. And I think that's the route that Sony is trying to go with this route. But either way, that is what has been announced today from Sony's quote unquote Xbox Game Pass competitor. I don't truly think they are apples to apples here. This is a very much more apples to oranges. But unfortunately, if you're in Camp Sony, the oranges are a little bit more expensive and it doesn't seem like you get as much. Either way, time will tell, truly who has the better strategy and if this works out for Sony. But as always, make sure to keep it subscribed here because the only BS on this channel is me.